In this video, we're going to go over rationals, and specifically we're going to go over how do you add and subtract rationals. So we learned about multiplying and dividing rationals in the other video, and that's a lot easier because when the thing is, when you add or subtract fractions, you need a lowest common denominator, whereas in multiplying and dividing, you don't need to do that. So that's why we're learning this after we learn about multiplying and dividing. So let's review fractions real quick. So for an example, if I had 3/4 plus 7 over 3, right? If we're adding fractions, we know that we can't just add as is. We need a lowest common denominator. And the lowest common denominator is going to be the lowest common multiple, right? So just think multiple. Lowest common multiple. So I asked myself, what does 4 and 3 have in common? That's a multiple. So the lowest common multiple they have is the number 12. So here the LCD is 12. And what we did is we rewrote it with 12 in the denominator. And when you rewrite with 12 in the denominator, in order to change from a 4 to 12, I needed to multiply by 3. So 4 times 3 is 12, and whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. So 3 times 3 is 9. Same thing to go from 3 to 12, I need to multiply by 4. So whatever I do bottom, I must do the top. That's the rules of fractions, the rules of math. I'm sorry, 4, not 14. 3 times 4 is 12, and 7 times 4 is 28. So now that I have the same denominator, then I can now add the fraction. And when I add the fraction, I keep the denominator the same, and I add the top together, 9 plus 28. And 9 plus 28 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 37. I still add with my fingers, believe it or not. 37 over 12, right? And I can't simplify that anymore, so that becomes my final answer. So that's how you add fractions or subtract. You need a lowest common denominator, you rewrite the fractions with the new LCD, and you add the numerator, and you keep the denominator the same. So thankfully, one of the things I love about math is that it's so consistent with its rules, because now when we're going to do that with rationals, when we're going to do adding and subtracting, it's also going to follow very similar rules as well. So let's take a look at one of the problems here. Let's look at number 4. Number 4, I have c squared minus 2c all over c squared So number 4 in your worksheet, notice that the denominators are the same. First thing I look at actually is I first look at this. I ask myself, am I adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? These are eyeballs. I'm subtracting. So in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm subtracting, I need to have a lowest common denominator. This is my thought. So here, I'm looking at the denominator. Are these denominators the same? Woohoo! Yes, they are. So they already have the same denominator. So I don't actually have to go through the steps of changing the denominator. So because the denominators are the same, I keep it the same here. And the top, I just simply combine the top. So the top here of c squared minus 2c minus 3. All right, now looking at the top, so ignoring this part, looking just at the top, can I simplify that anymore? I don't think I can simplify that. I can't add or subtract that to make it any smaller. And let me see. But what I can't simplify it in the sense of combining like terms, but I do notice something that this is a square, c squared, and this is c squared. So this is a quadratic, and there's 3 terms. So I'm wondering, can I factor this? Can I simplify this fraction more by factoring? So I'm thinking that, I wonder. So let's see if I could factor it. Because as we know, whenever we get a fraction, we always need to write it in simplest terms, in its lowest terms. So here, I'm going to see, can I factor this? And if I can factor it, can anything cancel out with the bottom? So looking at the top here, c squared minus 2c minus 3, if I factor that, so c times c gives me c squared. Two things that give me 3 is 1 and 3. Cross multiply, I get 3c and c. I need a negative 2c, so I'm going to subtract the negative 3 to get negative 2c. So as a result, I end up getting on top here c plus 1. So this here becomes c plus 1, c minus 3, right? Minus 3 here. Because a 1 times a negative 3 gives me a negative 3. I know I went through that kind of fast because at this point I'm assuming that you guys already know how to factor. Again, if you're struggling with factoring, please go back to my previous videos on factoring to learn how to do this. The bottom portion, can I factor this? Well, let's see. C squared plus 2c plus 1, if I look at the c squared, two things that multiply to give me c squared is c. Two things that multiply to give me 1 is just 1 and 1. When I cross multiply, I get 1c and 1c. I get added together and I get 2c. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. So these are my factors. So this denominator here, c squared plus 2c plus 1, now becomes c plus 1, c plus 1. So these are all factors. These are 4 factors. And now, if I want to simplify my answer, I want to cancel out or divide out any common factors. What do you see are the same? C plus 1 and c plus 1. If I divide them by each other, I end up just getting a 1 and a 1. So my final answer, therefore, is c minus 3 over c plus 1. And please, please, please do not cancel out the c. A lot of students do that because they just go canceling happy because they just cancel things out. Remember, the c minus 3, they're attached to each other. This is like a body and its head, right? You don't detach a body from its head. You keep them together. Keep c minus 3 together, keep c plus 1 together. You can only cancel out common factors. You can't cancel out pieces of a factor. So therefore, keep the answer as is.